دولة الإمارات ما هي دولة عالمية، الإمارات العالم في دولة، الإمارات العالم في دولة، الإمارات العالم في دولة.
دولة الإمارات مغرية ليش؟ لأنها فيها اقتصاد قوي على مستوى المنطقة والعالم.
الإمارات العالم في دولة.
Good morning to friends from the United Arab Emirates and good afternoon to participants from Hong Kong joining this webinar. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, Hong Kong-UAE Partnership Immense Opportunities. My name is Vinci, the MC for today's webinar. This webinar is organized by the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau of the Government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and the Ministry of Economy of the United Arab Emirates. It is also a privilege to have the following parties co-organizing the event. They are the Consulate General of the United Arab Emirates in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Dubai. Today's event is also supported by the Hong Kong Law Foundation and Invest Hong Kong. Before we get started, I would like to remind participants of the following. First, this webinar will be conducted in English and last for around 1.5 hours. The microphones and videos for the audience will be muted at all times. If you wish to ask questions, please submit your question together with your email address by using the Q&A function. While you may submit your questions anytime during the webinar, they will only be answered during the Q&A section. We may not be able to address all questions, and any unanswered questions relevant to the topic of discussion today will be replied individually via email after the webinar. The chat function will be disabled throughout the webinar. Now, I would like to introduce today's program to all of you. We will start with the welcome remarks by Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. This will then be followed by the responding remarks by His Excellency Dr. Sani bin Hamad Al Siyudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade, Ministry of Economy of the United Arab Emirates. Next, we will have a panel discussion with Commissioner for Belt and Road, Mr. Rex Jang, as a moderator. We're delighted to have leading figures from both Hong Kong and the UAE across different sectors joining our panel today, including from the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Hong Kong Law Foundation, the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, Dubai Investment Development Agency, and Sharjah Chamber of Commerce and Industry. After the panel discussion, we will take a few questions from the audience. Lastly, we will invite His Excellency Shul Saud Al Mualla, Acting Consul General of the United Arab Emirates in Hong Kong, to deliver the closing remarks. Without further ado, we will now have Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, to address the audience.
His Excellency Dr. Fanny, Consul General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and good morning to friends from the UAE for joining this webinar, and good afternoon to Hong Kong fellow participants. Today's webinar is the first that we jointly organize with an Arab counterpart amongst the government-to-government webinar series, which commenced in mid-2020 with all our major trading partners. It is an excellent start and a useful occasion for enterprises and professionals in both places to seek out collaboration in capturing the immense business opportunity under the new normalcy. In the post-COVID era, when supply chains are being reconstructed, trade collaboration will certainly be one of the highlights for partnership between Hong Kong and the UAE. Now, the UAE is Hong Kong's largest trading partner in the Middle East, with a 35% increase in total trade between the two places last year, amounting to over $12.8 billion. Our relationship has entered into a new height following the signing of the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement in June 2019 and the formal opening of our Economic and Trade Office in Dubai just last October. Now, the establishment of the Dubai ETO underscored the importance we attach to fostering this very important economic and trade ties between Hong Kong and the UAE. In this regard, I would like to congratulate the UAE in making a record of a 27% year-on-year jump in your non-oil foreign trade, which stands over $500 billion last year, which drive your trade activities beyond the pre-COVID level, which is phenomenal. Now, recognizing that the UAE seeks to further push up your trade volume in the coming years through a bold trade agenda, we see much opportunity in strengthening our bilateral relations, in particular in view of Hong Kong's unique position under the one country, two system, and our unique position in this part of the world. Of course, we are counting on the framework and also the very strong support from our motherland, the mainland of China, and also our unparalleled knowledge and deep connection with the market in this part of Asia. In addition, of course, we have a very structural tie with the mainland through the free trade agreement, which we call Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement, as well as our free trade agreement with ASEAN countries. Now, these are the very important trade links which bridge Hong Kong and also our partners in UAE, so that Hong Kong can act as a springboard or a bridge or a conduit for our sort of collaboration in business in the wider economic connections. In addition to our mutual trade ties, I also see much room for mutual collaboration in a wider area of services, particularly professional services. Now, to broaden the trade and economic platform between us, I understand that the UAE is now diversifying into many new economic areas. Take, for instance, there are a number of skyscrapers and large-scale development projects happening in your part of the world, under which Hong Kong has also involved, like the pad in Dubai, Burj Khalifa, Dubai Opera House, and also Palm Jumeirah, just to mention a few. The dynamic and booming development in the UAE provides enormous business opportunity for both Hong Kong professionals and also our partners in your part of the world. Indeed, the strength of Hong Kong's professional services is second to none, if I may say. We have a rich pool of professionals who maintain practices with high professional and international standards and possess deep local, regional, and international knowledge. Now, the professional services that Hong Kong offers are advantageous to many infrastructure and also investment projects, including our services in different stages of project development, such as architectural design, master planning, financing, accounting, consultancy, construction, legal and dispute resolution, and more. I'm confident that the UAE project owners will find Hong Kong's professional services helpful, beneficial, and mutually valuable. Later on today, you'll have a chance of hearing directly from many of these professionals who share the Hong Kong experience and why Hong Kong is well placed to play this role of functional platform for you and me and also all the connecting countries along the Belt and Road. From the regional perspective, both Hong Kong and the UAE enjoy strategic gateway positioning in our respective regions. Now, for the UAE, because of your investment-friendly environment, i.e. political and economic stability, pro-foreign investment policies, no exchange control, low tax regime, well-established infrastructure, liberal trade regimes, multicultural and diverse workforce, etc., you are the natural place to turn to for enterprises that are interested in the GCC markets. Now, on the other hand, UAE and the GCC companies interested in expanding into the part of Asia and the mainland of China are encouraged to come and invest in Hong Kong, for we are an international capital market and financial center, and exceptionally qualified to be a two-way connector. We are the ideal destination for businesses in the region, and beyond that, we are looking for growth opportunities. Most notably, among the opportunity ahead of us is the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, GBA in short. Now, the GBA creates a market of some 86 million people, mainly of the middle to upper income group, with a combined GDP around $1.7 trillion, which is equivalent to the economic size of, say, Korea or Australia. That the area presents exceptional potential and partnership opportunity, not only for Hong Kong, but also for the world, including the UAE and other GCC economies. So immense opportunity are here for your discovery. Before I close, I would like to extend my warmest thanks to His Excellency Dr. Fanny for participating in the policy dialogue in last year's Belt and Road Summit. Your speech has been very inspiring and it drew a lot of attention among the audience. Now, this year, we are going to hold the Belt and Road Summit on 31st of August to 1st of September. And we expect that there would be fruitful discussion at the summit, covering a wide spectrum of things, including international trade developments, opportunity to revitalize global trade through international collaborations. Similar to last editions, project pitching sessions and hundreds of one-on-one business matching sessions will be arranged at the venue. Now, friends from the UAE and of course from Hong Kong and around the world are most welcome to join. This year, we are also marking the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. And therefore, the summit will be one of the signature events to celebrate this special occasion. It certainly is an event not to be missed. Ladies and gentlemen, a new chapter ahead is waiting for us. As the pandemic resides, huge opportunity for collaboration and mutual growth emerge. Closer partnership and collaboration are essential in reviving the economy in the post-COVID era. Now is a high time for the UAE and other GCC economies to tap into the unparalleled opportunities that Hong Kong can offer. Our Dubai Economic and Trade Office and its investment promotion team stand ready to support businesses and investors in the UAE and throughout the GCC region to explore the rewarding business opportunity that are being available both in Hong Kong, the GBA, and throughout the mainland of China and the Asia region. Finally, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Consul General of the UAE in Hong Kong for joining us in organizing today's webinar, and to the Ministry of Economy of the UAE for your great support. On the Hong Kong side, of course, my sincere thanks goes to the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, the Hong Kong Law Foundation, Invest Hong Kong, and our Dubai ETO for their staunch support. I'm sure in the not distant future, we can meet face to face to further promote and strengthen our economic, trade, and cultural ties. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Hong Kong or in your part of the world. So may I wish this webinar today a great success and you all a very good health and a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Yao. His Excellency Dr. Sani bin Hamad Al Siyudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade, Ministry of Economy of the United Arab Emirates, will now deliver his responding remarks. His Excellency Dr. Sani, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning to those attending the session from the UAE, and very good afternoon to our guests in Hong Kong. It's my pleasure to join you all in this session as we explore how the UAE and Hong Kong can strengthen our partnership and drive economic progress in the post-COVID era. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity. The UAE Ministry of Economy supports any efforts aimed at promoting dialogue and prosperity. This commitment stems from the UAE's sincere belief that trade and investment partnership deliver growth for all parties. In fact, the UAE has ushered a new era of economic diplomacy by strengthening our relationships with global partners. At the same time, we are pursuing an aggressive reform agenda to accelerate and sustain future economic growth. Against this backdrop, we are particularly keen to strengthen our collaboration and partnership with the Belt and Road economies, especially our long-standing ally, Hong Kong. Today, the UAE is Hong Kong's largest trading partner in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, especially since the global pandemic, we have launched a number of programs and initiatives designed to create the ideal environments for investors and entrepreneurs. In fact, our response to COVID-19 sparked a whole new trajectory of economic liberalizations, the trade and investment agenda that is opening up our economy to the world. Several federal laws were updated and forward-looking policy reforms introduced, all designed to keep the pace with the new economic realities of our times. Some of these include the Companies Law, which now allows for 100% foreign ownership, strengthening of the anti-money laundering system, enhancing measures to support family-owned businesses, tourism sector, and circular economy. The launch of talent attraction strategy and the revamp of the visa and residency system. Perhaps most significantly, we are also currently working to sign comprehensive economic partnership agreements with key global markets. The CEPA with India has already come into effect, promising to push bilateral trade beyond $100 billion and add $9 billion to the nation's GDP by 2030. We're convinced that these efforts are key to strengthen the very foundation of our economy, ensuring the ability to keep up with sudden shifts in the global economic landscape. If COVID crisis has taught us one thing, it is the need for economies to be agile, to be able to rapidly adapt to major events and crises. Ladies and gentlemen, the UAE leadership's vision for the economy of the next 50 years is focused on promoting entrepreneurship, talent, and innovation, especially in the industries of the future. And we at the Ministry of Economy continue to work to ensure that our goals and priorities of these fields are achieved within the set timeframes. In this context, I would like to highlight the Ministry's cooperation with the Hong Kong Trade and Economic Development Office, which was recently established in Dubai to enhance bilateral relations, implement joint ventures. The office has intensified the pace of economic activities, with investment flows now creating unprecedented opportunities in our market. We believe, therefore, that it is most ideal time for us to kick-start a new era of progress in the UAE-Hong Kong partnership led by the private sector. I'm taking this opportunity to invite Hong Kong-based businesses and investors to take advantage of the opportunities and incentives offered by our economy and be partners in our growth journey. The Ministry of Economy will extend all necessary support in this regard to facilitate a closer and more wide-range collaboration between relevant government and private sector entities. By capitalizing on the UAE's position as a strategic gateway to a wide array of leading regional markets and dynamic re-export hub, Hong Kong businesses will be able to expand their footprint in our rapidly evolving region. To summarize, the opportunities before us are endless, and now it's upon us to fully leverage them to support the post-COVID development agendas we have for our economies. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency Dr. Sani. We will now move on to the panel discussion section. And let me introduce our moderator today. He is Mr. Rex Chang, Commissioner for Belt and Road of the Government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Besides, we are very honored to have 3 panelists from Hong Kong and 2 panelists from the UAE. They are senior government officials and top industry leaders with expertise and business experience in a wide range of areas. Commissioner Zhang and our expert panelists will share their insights in the immense opportunities in strengthening the economic and trade connections between the 2 places. Now, let me hand it over to our moderator, Commissioner Zhang. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Vinci. Thank you all for joining the panel discussion today. The theme of today's panel discussion is opportunities for collaboration in the post-COVID time. We are very privileged to have 5 distinguished guests from Hong Kong and the UAE to share with us their views, their insights on the collaboration opportunities between Hong Kong and the UAE. In particular, Hong Kong's unique role as the gateway between mainland China and the Middle East. Sitting with me on site today are 2 speakers from Hong Kong, Mr. Larry Kwok and Dr. Patrick Lau. Another speaker from Hong Kong joining us via Zoom is Mr. Nicholas Ho. 2 speakers from the UAE side joining us via Zoom are His Excellency Fahad Al-Jujairi and His Excellency Abdullah Sudan Alawiz. Each panelist will be given about 5 minutes in this round of remarks. Without further ado, let me introduce our first panelist, Mr. Larry Kwok. Larry is chairman of the Hong Kong Law Foundation and a founding partner of Kwok Yik Chen, one of the few Hong Kong-based law firms which has successfully built a special expertise and reputation in corporate finance and capital markets. Larry is regularly cited as a leading lawyer by major legal publications, to name a few: Chambers Asia, Chambers Global, Asia Pacific Legal 500, PLC Which Lawyer, and International Financial Law Review 100. Larry has also served on a number of government boards and committees. Larry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rex. Good morning to participants from UAE, and good afternoon to participants from Hong Kong. What I'm going to share with you in the next 5 minutes is what UAE and Hong Kong can do together as partners from the legal perspective. First of all, let me be very clear at the outset. The rule of law is a fundamental strength of Hong Kong. In a broad sense, Hong Kong law is based on English law, very similar to the practice of other English common law countries, for example, Australia, Canada, Malaysia, and Singapore. Hong Kong's common law-based legal system can provide legal and commercial certainty for international businesses operating in Hong Kong. Hong Kong also has a thriving and very robust legal profession. Hong Kong's legal system is very open and transparent. Let me give you some key numbers to show this. There are about 12,000 Hong Kong licensed lawyers, 1,600 registered foreign lawyers from 34 countries, and over 1,000 Hong Kong law firms in Hong Kong. On a very rough estimate, about 10 to 15% of them are foreign-based firms. That is, there are about 100 to 150 foreign-based firms in Hong Kong, including the UK Magic Circle and Silver Circle firms and the major US law firms. Majority of these foreign firms are free to practice Hong Kong law. Even the big 4 accounting firms have set up their own law firms in Hong Kong. I dare say that you won't find another city in the world with so many foreign-based law firms freely operating here. It is relatively easy for foreign law firms to set up an office in Hong Kong. Unlike many countries, it is a registration system, not an approval system. In Hong Kong, all foreign law firms are free to practice local law, that is Hong Kong law, as long as the Hong Kong office has more Hong Kong licensed lawyers than foreign lawyers. In this sense, Hong Kong is much more neutral, open, and independent as far as operating law firms are concerned. In many countries, including Singapore, foreign law firms are generally not permitted to practice local law. Hong Kong is a second-to-none professional services hub in the region. Hong Kong lawyers play a critical role in supporting other professional sectors in such areas as banking and finance, private equity funds, capital raising through public offerings, shipping, infrastructure, construction, and information technology. Hong Kong lawyers are also familiar with the mainland market, including its culture, language, law, and rules and regulations. With this background and equipped with the international standards, Hong Kong lawyers are the most reliable partners for investors from UAE and the Middle East to join hands to explore the huge business opportunities available in the mainland, including the Greater Bay Area. Hong Kong is also a key center for international arbitration. According to the international survey conducted by Queen Mary University of London, Hong Kong has been continuously ranked among the top 5 preferred seats for arbitration globally since 2015. Last year, Hong Kong took 3rd place, and respondents selecting Hong Kong as a preferred place for arbitration have jumped from 22% in 2015 to 44% in 2021. Indeed, the central government explicitly supports Hong Kong's role as a center for international arbitration center services in the Asia-Pacific region. Hong Kong is well positioned as a service center for deal-making and resolving investment and commercial disputes relating to Belt and Road projects. Middle East is one of the fastest growing markets. We see ample opportunities for mutual collaboration. Hong Kong's International Arbitration Center is truly international. International participation is very visible and open. About 60 to 70% of its council members are expatriates from 15 different countries, such as the United States, Australia, United Kingdom, France, Korea, Singapore, Germany, and the Netherlands. For the past 2.5 years, the world has been plagued by the COVID pandemic. The use of technology for provision of legal services is an important area of development. The Hong Kong Legal Cloud Portal, launched in March this year, can provide safe, secure, and affordable services for the legal and arbitration sectors. One important aspect of Hong Kong's role as a regional legal hub is that the use of the Hong Kong Legal Cloud has made the translation of legal documents between English and Arabic, and also between English and Chinese, so much easier. With this note, I conclude my remarks. Back to you, Rex. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry. Just heard from Larry. I think I will just take it as 2 words. One is we are very international, our legal service. Secondly, we are the hub. And so, thank you again, Larry. Next, we have Mr. Nicholas Ho. Nick is the co-convener of the Belt and Road Working Group of the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, and also the chairman of Ho & Partners Architects, Engineers and Development Consultants Limited, one of the major architectural firms in Hong Kong, and a strategic partner of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council's Belt and Road related initiatives. I know Nick was engaged in a development project in Dubai before. I'm sure Nick would have some first-hand experience to share with us. Nick, please.
And good afternoon to our audience here today. Thank you, the organizers, for having me. I'm Nicholas Ho. I'm an architect by training. Today, I'm speaking on a GCC, General Chamber of Commerce behalf. I'm a co-convener of the Belt and Road Committee. And at GCC, we have many members doing business in the UAE, ranging from professional services, trading, infrastructure, and real estate development. For myself, as Chair has mentioned, my practice is an international architectural practice over 40 years. And we have done projects in the UAE, namely Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah 15 to 20 years ago. We're very proud to have done that project. And Dubai and the UAE have changed so much ever since then. I think it's a very exciting time for us to witness the new changes happening in the region. and how Hong Kong and Dubai and the UAE, we can all play a role together. I think there's a few special points about the opportunities that we see going forward. One is the UAE and Dubai, namely, it's a very fast-paced, agile market that's open to new ideas, especially for architecture, that are always after the new and progressive designs, how to set a new benchmark for global practices, challenging engineering standards. So I think coming from Hong Kong with immense building experience from mainland and Asia, Hong Kong professional fit right in, given our high-speed rail, transit-oriented development experience, and building with new sort of technology like MIC, modular integrated constructions, so on, will fit very nicely with Dubai's demand. And I think second is Dubai has always been very visionary. Being in a desert, Dubai's long-term vision is always about sustainability. And that's very, very true since 20 years ago, which is way before, all the ESG, green finance trend that we're seeing right now in global markets. You can see from Master City done 10 years ago. You can see many more infrastructure and utility smart buildings completed over 10 years ago in Dubai and the UAE, illustrating that. So I think for us, what makes it exciting for Hong Kong technology to get into Dubai and the UAE is really match with that long-term vision to breed new technology and put it into practice. And I think in the past 20 years, as other speakers have also mentioned here today, the financial and capital market has greatly matured. And I do believe that Dubai has the perfect sort of advantage to be the regional finance powerhouse for the UAE going forward. And in the next 20 years, many of our partners and financiers has discussed with us, we all believe that Islamic economy will play a very important role in the world going forward. And the collaboration between the UAE and Hong Kong becomes a very natural partner in a way. Because Hong Kong is an international financial center, liquid, active, and well-recognized. And we're also gateway into Belt and Road and GBA, as Secretary Yao has mentioned. And this would be the perfect partner with the UAE being a gateway to regional economy as well. And I know that from my recent conversation in Thailand with some of our partners, one of them is CICC from mainland China. They already established their commitment to open a presence in Dubai to serve the UAE markets as well. And I think going forward, more and more international companies, whether it is technology, finance, or professional services, are looking into opening and investing into the region as well. I think lastly, I'll just end my talk here. I think what's a very exciting new trend that we're observing in our family office, because we do invest in startups and PE deals, is technology companies. We're seeing an increased amount of technology companies moving into the region in the UAE and setting up shop in Dubai. Mostly, there are very mature investment companies like ADIA, institutional funds, very adaptive to use new technologies like Hyperloop for infrastructure and tech, 5G, green tech, water purification technology, blockchain technology like Web3 or crypto. That forms a very strong talent pool, attracting global technology startups to set up shop there to create different pockets and buckets of ecosystems in order to make the economy richer and more innovative. And together with the new ETO office opened in Dubai by the Hong Kong government last year, I myself has plans to travel to Dubai in the next few months and to explore business opportunities with our partners in 5G as well. So we're very excited about the collaboration between Hong Kong and the UAE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Nick, well, actually, I have a question for you, but maybe I'll save it in the Q&A session. Now we'll turn to the UAE side. Firstly, joining us virtually today is His Excellency Fahad Al Jujawi, Chief Executive Officer of Dubai Investment Development Agency, or in short, Dubai FDI. Dubai FDI is the Foreign Investment Office of Dubai, part of the Dubai Department of Economic Development, which provides essential information and invaluable support to foreign businesses looking to invest in Dubai. His Excellency Al Jujairi also served as president of the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, leading the global FDI body from 2019 to 2021. His Excellency Al Jujairi, the floor is yours.
In Hong Kong. It's my great pleasure to be with you today, just to highlight the relationship between Hong Kong, a historical one between Hong Kong and UAE, and particularly in Dubai. We've been having tremendous relationship for many, many years. Been in Hong Kong in many different occasions. The last one actually was also a road and build initiative event. We are, as said by His Excellency Ziyudi, as a country, we are the largest trading partner for Hong Kong in the Middle East. And that is part of a continuous relationship that have been established a long time ago. Continuing on that, today, Dubai, in a global positioning to service companies coming to Middle East, Indian subcontinent, as well as Northeast and West Africa, that brings a 2.4 billion consumer market that can be penetrated directly from Dubai. At the same time, within what we see, while there are a lot of changes that we are seeing, but we also monitor opportunities. And such opportunities gives us the enthusiasm to really continue focus on what we can do in the future. These type of opportunities also can be solidifying Dubai positioning to really serve global trade better. As we are in a market that hosts a lot of people, especially the ones we had in Expo, 192 countries have participated in a wonderful event in a tough time, a very successful one, and reaching a very close number to pre-COVID anticipated visitors. 25 million visitors. We reached 24.1 million visitors in this expo, which is also a great and a solid flag of UAE and Dubai capabilities to organize global world-class event in such difficult times. Today, where we are with difficulties around us, we see opportunities also at the same time. We want to be a global participant in world trade, at the same time a facilitator to that, exactly like Hong Kong. And I think there are many opportunities in between. Pre-COVID numbers for Dubai, we were the third largest airport in the world, serving 91 million passengers through Dubai International Airport. And number one on international travelers. At the same time, Dubai ports have been among the top 10 performing ports in the world. The relation that we are looking at right now is how we can facilitate with the global logistic chain supply challenges. Only places like Dubai, Hong Kong, and a few others around the world can support such difficulties. I'd like also to mention that our participation in the roundtable, the Road and Build initiative, we are, as Dubai FDI, we are one of the supporting partners, institutional ones, and we have been participating in few different previous events, along with the UAE delegations. We look at future events as well that are coming, especially before the end of this year. I just would like to highlight that we are in Dubai ready to support, ready to engage. We are already focusing on a few sectors that I'd like to highlight quickly. including trade and logistics, business services, finance, tourism, IT and tech sectors, agri-tech, health tech, and also Industry 4.0 components, including clean and sustainable technologies. And the last one that have been added almost a month ago is the crypto sector. Dubai is very enthusiastic to that, and we'd like to put our hands together with our friends and partners in Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. Next, I would like to invite His Excellency Abdullah Sudan Alawi's, Chairman of Sharjah Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Established in 1970, the main mission of the Chamber is to support business sectors by providing world-class services to enhance their competitive abilities and achieve sustainable economic and social development. His Excellency was the head of the Executive Committee, Sharjah Institute of Technology from 2009 to 2012. He has become Chairman of Sharjah Chamber of Commerce of Industry since May 2014. His Excellency Alawi, please.
To our partner in Hong Kong and also our colleagues in the United Arab Emirates, just I want to highlight the opportunity. The first one, UAE, largest trading partner in the MENA region. Second thing, establishing UAE organization opening in Hong Kong. There are many companies, many like Al-Ittihad, Emirates Airline, Mashreq Bank, Abu Dhabi First Bank, and so they are opening branches in Hong Kong. Also, the agreement which is signed between UAE and Hong Kong, one, the service agreement which is signed in 1998, and MOU Air Services 2001, MOU Abu Dhabi Securities Market, which is signed in 2007, Fitch agreement between Dubai and Hong Kong, also which is signed 2017, Fitch agreement signed between Abu Dhabi Global Market on 2018, investment promotion and protection, which is signed in 2019. Also, the double taxation agreement, which is signed, avoiding double taxation agreement, which is signed 2014. When we look to this numbers, in Hong Kong, they are opening office in Dubai, Hong Kong Commercial and Economic Office in Dubai, establishing in 2021 Overseas Belt Road Initiative in GCC. It's a very strong point. Economic also in GCC, mutual interest, Fitch, new and trade, logistic, transportation, and biotech. The next one, when you go to the number and relation, there are over $8 billion the relationship in numbers, the volume of trade, also export from UAE to $7.9. Also the value of re-export, $4.3 billion. Also Hong Kong, the 16 trade partner, also the largest export market, UAE, also 17 import market to UAE. Again, when we go to the main, it's electronic, diamonds, plastic, clothing. This is import from UAE to Hong Kong, which is like minerals, chemicals, plastic, and rubber. What is the potential? We have more than 87 companies which participate in Middle East Watch and Jewelry Show. This is based in Sharjah. And we are expecting more than 110 company participants in 2023. The future. I think, one, to review the commercial and investment project. Second thing, developing joint cooperation and exhibition and support the Belt and Road Initiative, extend the trade mission and more official delegation and the trade exchange. When we go to Sharjah Chamber of Commerce, we have more than 57,000 members. The new member who joined us last year, 4,320. And from the pre-zone company, there are more than 2,000 companies. Certificate of origin, which is issued by Sharjah Chamber, more than 71,000 certificate of origin. During the pandemic, Sharjah Chamber of Commerce, of course, there are a lot of discussion between the government to give more facility to the private sector, also the smart delegation transmission. Also, during the COVID, Sharjah Chamber of Commerce launching the first fund to finance the export operation named Sadr, which is to increase the export and open a new market. I think with this few remarks, I'd like to thank all the organizers in both the country, and I wish that we're going to increase our trade value and visiting and the trade mission between both countries. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you, His Excellency. Thanks very much indeed. Again, I think our audience, or including myself, will have a lot of questions I would like to ask from you and also from other speakers, but I will save it to the Q&A session. Coming back to Hong Kong, we have Dr. Patrick Lau, Deputy Executive Director of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, or in short, Hong Kong TDC. Patrick has diverse experience in the private sector before joining the TDC. One of Patrick's portfolios is to promote Hong Kong's services sectors, in particular our very strong professional services. Patrick is also responsible for Hong Kong TDC's external relations, corporate communications and marketing, and TDC's network of 50 offices worldwide. Patrick, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Rex. It's my honor and pleasure to be part of this very important discussion of Hong Kong-UAE Partnership. So being the last speaker here, I will want to avoid repeating some points, but I prepare 3 slides to share with everyone what are the opportunities that HKTDC sees. The first point had already been mentioned by many speakers before, which is that Hong Kong is a two-way business hub. And we do mean it because Hong Kong is very international. Many of my fellow panelists had already mentioned. We are the international financial hub. We are the logistic and aviation hub. Also the legal and dispute resolution center, as my fellow panelist Larry already mentioned also, and a technology and innovation hub. So this is clear, and we want to be the gateway for businesses to get into mainland China, Asia, and beyond. What I want to also mention on the right-hand side of this slide is the opportunity that mainland China had promulgated in the 14th Five-Year Plan, what we call dual circulation. And the right-hand side of the right-hand circle of this is the international circulation, which is the external trade and investment. That is clear. But the left-hand circle is the domestic circulation, which is a domestic market that is now open and available to businesses outside of to participate, including businesses from UAE, Middle East, and beyond. And as Secretary Al had earlier mentioned, the Greater Bay Area, which is in short GBA, is a huge opportunity. And at this point, I want to highlight what is on the slide also, the Go GBA one-stop platform that the HKTDC had launched. And this is a one-stop support with information and online, offline program that we can help all businesses, including businesses from the UAE, to benefit from venturing into the GBA. And you can search for Go GBA on the website or on our WeChat mini program. Then the second point I want to highlight is Hong Kong is a deal-making hub. And the deal here is more than a trade. It's more than a buyer and a seller, and often it involves at least 3 parties, being a Belt and Road project. There will be investors from either the mainland or Hong Kong, and we can contribute service providers and professionals from Hong Kong to structure the deal in between. So this tripartite cooperation is what Hong Kong is good at, and we welcome project owners from the Middle East to use Hong Kong platform to source investors and to find the appropriate service providers to make the deals happen. And you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, this is a round table that we would have done in a physical format to involve all the players around the world together in one room. But for the pandemic during that year, we had invited players to be online to continue that dialogue. Even during the pandemic, even during the travel restrictions, we get the parties from different countries together to facilitate the deal to happen. And this is a key function and key role of Hong Kong that we can contribute to UAE and GCC. My last slide here is to extend a welcome to all participants, especially from the UAE and the GCC region, to again visit us here in Hong Kong. I'm so happy to hear today that many participants, including His Excellency Dr. Chani, had led a delegation from the UAE before to attend our Belt and Road Summit. This is the first logo on the right-hand side of this slide. And again, this will be hosted again this year in collaboration with the Belt and Road Office that the Commissioner led. And this, again, will welcome participants to join. We have many other anchor events that the HKTDC organizes throughout the year, which is some 40 plus events that I won't go through one by one, but some are listed on this slide that will welcome participation from the UAE and the GCC communities. I want to also highlight one last point, which is on the left-hand side of this slide. You'll see quite a number of international fairs and exhibitions that we organize here in Hong Kong, and we welcome participation in, for example, our Hong Kong International Jewelry Show, where the Sharjah Chamber had just mentioned, a lot of the jewelry players can utilize the Hong Kong platform to find international buyers and find partners. And this will be something that will be very concrete and beneficial for our Hong Kong UAE partnership going forward. So I'll end there and again, hope to see more collaboration opportunities going forward between both sides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And actually, thanks so much to all our panelists for today's sharing. And I think this sharing certainly is very, very useful and insightful. And also, I think one more thing, all our panelists have very, very excellent control of their time. all of them. Well, I at the start of the panel discussion, I said that we'll have about 5 minutes for each of our panelists, and I've actually counted. Not one of us, not. I think all of us actually may take within 5 minutes or a bit more than 5 minutes. Thanks very much indeed. Our panel discussion, as I said, comprises 2 parts. The first part is the introduction by our panelists, and the second part is the Q&A session. I think because of the excellent time control, we will have about half an hour for the Q&As. Let's go to the Q&A session. So, well, actually, we've received quite a number of questions from the audience. I'll try to pick and select and hope that all our panelists will have the opportunity to answer at least one question. Let me start with the first question is, what are some green finance opportunities in Hong Kong and the region? And maybe, may I invite Larry? Can you help us on this one?
I think I'm not an expert on green finance, but I'm more on capital markets and also investment. So perhaps I'll just try to sort of take in a very, I think, on a very sort of timidly on this particular aspect. I think there are should be lots of opportunities for Hong Kong sort of professionals to be able to sort of bring in their expertise in banking and finance. I'm sure that they, in terms of Hong Kong's, I think, sustainable development requirement in a lot of companies. So we can bring in those sort of expertise as well as our international standards to UAE as well as the Middle East region. And also, on part of that, I think on top of the green finance, there will be other layers of legal professional support, because green finance could also involve in private equity finance, private equity funds in financing sort of the green energy, and also you can also involved in infrastructure development with the sort of environmental sort of friendly attitude in mind. So I think all in all, I think all these are very relevant for the region. And also in terms of maturity of the green financing, you can also raise capital through the public offerings in Hong Kong. So I think my firm has assisted investors and corporations to raise capital from Singapore and Malaysia, and also Kazakhstan through the initial public offerings, IPOs, in the Hong Kong stock market. Thank you, Rex.
Yes. Thank you very much, Larry. Are there any panelists who would like to also address on this question? If not, maybe I'll go to the second one. Yeah. The second one is, the question is, Hong Kong Company Registry is very open in terms of identifying stockholders, shareholders and directors for due diligence purposes. Free zone companies and some emirates are less open on such matters. Okay. Do you believe that this may hold back investment or trade? I think this one we are talking about those investments in the Middle East or UAE. May I ask His Excellency Fahad Al-Jajawi help us to answer this one?
Yes, can you repeat just the first part of the question?
Oh, okay. The first part is commenting on the Hong Kong one. The Hong Kong Company Registry is very open in terms of like identifying shareholders and directors for due diligence and for due diligence basically. And free zone companies, I guess the question is about asking about those in the Middle East and some emirates in the Middle East. I guess the question is like that, are less open on such matters. That means they are less open in identifying shareholders and directors for due diligence purpose. I'm not sure whether this is true, but this is just a question. So that's why they ask, is that true, and will that hold back investment or trade in the Middle East or in UAE?
First of all, thank you for the question. It is by law that in UAE, shareholders are all to be known, especially that this will go to the federal authority, and all companies' registration has to be, included within. Actually, there are certain free zones that are even rigid into registering companies, and they want to take more diligence into that, such as Dubai International Financial Center, who are known for taking a bit longer time than the rest, but making sure that the company's representation and the shareholders are really well known. As you know, and everyone knows, UAE is part of a global, organizations as well as international, agreements, especially on identification of owners of businesses and shareholders. And this is the same goes to, I think, many different jurisdictions around the world. There is no option of not registering, shareholders. It is there. The only thing that will be possibly, and this is also my colleague, Excellency Al-Uwais, will comment on, it might differ in how quick certain free zones will act into that. Some others would be less, depending on their what type of free zone or sectors they're servicing. But we cannot neglect this point, which is very important.
Yeah, thank you. Not sure whether His Excellency Al-Uwais would like also to supplement on this one.
Yeah, this type of service actually available. For example, the Sharjah Chamber of Commerce, we receive a lot of inquiry from the partner, the management level, and we answer always the request. It's come from many organizations, and we answer them. They ask, maybe we receive more than 20 to 30 inquiry a month. And shareholders, partner, management, the GM, and on the law of United Arab Emirates, in the public company, all the board of directors, it's clear mentioned. The CEO of the company is also it's registered. And I think clear, it's all the information available. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Yeah, thank you. Well, maybe I have another question, maybe also more relevant to our UAE friends. The question is, with the establishment of the Dubai ETO, which is the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Dubai, last year, and the entry into force of the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, the IPA. His Excellency also mentioned this in your presentation. With the UAE in March 2020, the relationship between Hong Kong and the UAE has much enhanced. What measures do you think that we can take to further consolidate our relationship? And can businesses in both Hong Kong and the UAE work together to grasp the business opportunities under the new normalcy? I think, well, both sides can answer that. Maybe I'll like to see His Excellency whether you would like to comment on this question. Maybe His Excellency Al-Uwais. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again. See, after the pandemic, last 2 years, what's happened to the global market, the logistics services and others, the airline was completely stopped for the COVID situation. Now, I think to increase the business and to increase the investment between both countries, first of all, we have to go back to the normal life. Normal life, that means the exhibition come to the normal level, trade mission come to the normal, plus the official delegation, I think very important. If we are concentrating this 3 points, this normally going to increase the trade between both countries. Especially what's happened now to the market in general, there is a lot of short of supply. It's really like an electronic part of car manufacturing, airlines, airplanes, really is heavily affected because of short of supply.
Okay.
I think if we go back and look to this, after the pandemic, this will be the future of the business. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, His Excellency. Yeah. Another question, I think this is more relevant maybe to Nick The question is, how can a foreign architectural design consultant look for prospective projects in UAE? Maybe Nick and also maybe His Excellency Al Jajawi or Alawiz can also address this question. Maybe I'll ask Nick to answer first.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I think in the past 15 to 20 years, the landscape has changed very much, but I think there are many opportunities doing cross-border projects, especially through, I think number one is through existing friends and partners. There's a lot of international practices in Dubai already doing a lot of projects, and many of those companies have their sort of regional headquarters in Hong Kong as well. So the Hong Kong-Dubai connection is a lot stronger than people give them credit for. And I think through your existing business partners and sectors, there's always opportunities there as long as the professional service provider can exert a certain value and competitive edge. I think second is Dubai and the UAE has a very strong e-governance structure. A lot of e-tendering system that is already existed online, and it's fairly open and open to tender, open to submit an expression of interest. And their international design projects are usually judged by a very fair and international judging panel. So I think through the online process, there are substantial amount of opportunities that's open to submit tender for. It's not as sort of paper-based or physical-based as one would have think. And I think resources and aggregators like Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, HKTDC, and also HKETO in Dubai, these are very, very good sort of on-the-ground resource that members and citizens can gain access to and get information from. So for example, for Hong Kong TDC, their online infrastructure toolkit is a very powerful platform that can connect with counterparts and business partners and opportunities in the UAE. And similarly, for GCC, General Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, we have brothers associations in the UAE that can connect our members to opportunities and potential partners there as well. And the ETO office in Dubai, I'm sure, since its establishment last year, must have host many events and networking opportunities that can also derive from the business opportunities. So I think opportunities are there. We just need to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. I'm not sure whether His Excellency Al Jajawi would like to comment. The question is, how can a foreign architectural design consultant look for prospective projects in UAE? From the investment promotion perspective, I'm not sure whether His Excellency you have any comments on that.
Yes, I think it's as have mentioned by my colleague previously here. It is one part of that connectivity. I mean, you are among, the society or community of different professionals in the field, and you can have access to that. At the same time, I do believe that the different entities going through these different tendering has their own platforms and can be accessed either through Invest in Dubai as a platform or the respective different government entities in Abu Dhabi or Sharjah or Dubai. At the same time, I would like to highlight that what is happening right now in UAE and the other GCC and also in the possibilities point of view. We estimate by 2018 that the GCC countries would need until 2030 $2.5 trillion worth of projects, especially in infrastructure. And these are tremendous projects that would need a lot of professionals, companies, systems, product, and many expertise in the back. And as we have been doing this for UAE, Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, all the Emirates, even the Gulf, for many years ago, we will continue to have our tendering open for, companies who would, from different parts of the world, especially from friendly neighboring countries, as well as long-standing trading partners, where I think a lot of talents into this comes also from Hong Kong. We will be always open to that. Few things that will come later when the company is going through the award or would be awarded. I think to establish a business, you need to be registered, and that will come later to the different establishment. But everything before that goes to the networking information and being connected to what are the opportunities are and who are the entities that government entities that has the projects.
Yeah. Thank you, His Excellency. Well, actually, the next question is also related to this one. Maybe I think His Excellency has already explained and briefed us on the investment opportunities in UAE. Maybe I'll turn this one to Patrick, our Deputy Executive Director of TDC. The question is, well, it's both sides, but I think we can focus on the Hong Kong side. What are the opportunities available in the business establishment and investment sector for companies and investors from Hong Kong to the UAE, and companies and investors from the UAE to Hong Kong to expand businesses?
Thank you, Commissioner Rex. It's a very broad question.
Yeah.
I think the key, as many of the panelists had highlighted, is the connectivity. I think one of the events that we have mentioned quite repeatedly during this session today is the Belt and Road Summit, which is actually upcoming again on the 31st of August this year. We obviously will again welcome all players from UAE, from the Middle East, to join us again this year for our 6th edition. And as with previous edition, the Belt and Road Summit aims to be a platform on which projects can actually be brought to the Belt and Road Summit for discussion. So real projects can be discussed, and the platform also allows the projects to find investors, to find professional services providers, to find partners from all around the world, not just Hong Kong. Obviously, Hong Kong and mainland China has a lot of the potential partners and services providers who will be joining the summit. And so this will be a platform where that connectivity can happen. And indeed, we will also be discussing the most topical of topics during the summit, including sustainable development, including the infrastructure development in the Middle East, and similar sort of topics for other regions, where I think it will not only benefit the Middle East and UAE project owners, but also the investors from UAE and Middle East can also consider projects that are available in other parts of the Belt and Road countries, and therefore achieve this connection and mingling of the capital and ideas amongst the Belt and Road. So we hope that will be a good platform for everyone to use, and of course we welcome ideas and projects and participants to raise out how they want to utilize this platform. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. We still have quite a few of questions. Maybe I think we can handle one or two more. The next one is, well, different jurisdictions have different legal systems. Maybe I think this one we can ask Larry to help. Can you enlighten our audience today on how Hong Kong's legal professionals can apply their expertise in the local context, say in the UAE or Middle East?
Well, thank you, Rex. Hong Kong lawyers are common law trained lawyers, so by definition, we are generally very versatile in adapting to practice in different jurisdictions of the world. And Hong Kong lawyers we can bring our international standards and expertise to UAE and the Middle East region. Our international standards and expertise of Hong Kong lawyers in banking and finance, private equity funds, infrastructure, arbitration, investments, and also I think increasing importance is regulatory compliance, global regulatory compliance are all very relevant for the region. And to give you an example, my firm has advised corporations and investors on matters in UAE, Cambodia, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Mauritius, Singapore, and Thailand. And we have also assisted investors as well as corporations from Singapore, Malaysia, and Kazakhstan to raise capital through public offerings in Hong Kong. So I think that's how Hong Kong lawyers can help from the investment inception, ideas, and then through maturity, and eventually through sort of, I think, to realize your investment through a public offering or to further capital injection by the public into the particular project, and so that sort of it become an investment for the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. Perhaps the last question. The last question I would like to go to ask Nick to help. As mentioned, Nick, you've been involved in an architectural project in Dubai, although many years ago, I understand. Do you recognize, like, for example, any cultural difference in doing businesses in the two places? Any useful tips that you may share with our audience?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think we have done projects all over the world, in UK, Australia, ASEAN, and also in the UAE as well. I think what makes UAE different than others is that the culture is although the region is very rich in its own traditional culture, but the Dubai sort of mentality and direction, it's very progressive. They want change. They want what's the latest. They want to be the first. They want to be pioneering at the same all these times. And I think it's not just reflected in architecture or design, but also in their adoption of technology, in their incubation of new startups, and their focus on the long-term strategy of the region and city as well. So for architecture, I remember since 15, 20 years ago, they're already asking us what's the world doing? What's the sort of leading trends and design theories that others are doing? And how can Dubai and the region of the UAE sort of challenge that new norm and to create a new norm. So I think that mentality it's very interesting because it's based on a rich culture, but at the same time the need and the sort of desire to challenge new technology and new norms. It's incorporated sort of in their DNA. So I think that part is very, very interesting. In our startup sort of partnerships and investment side, we're seeing, as His Excellency mentioned as well, a lot of Web3 crypto-related companies has decided to set up shop in Dubai. And obviously Hong Kong, we have a fair bit of those talents as well. So I do see there's a strong synergy between Hong Kong and Dubai, sort of collaborating and also building ecosystems together with these sort of Web3 talents. And infrastructure-wise, you can see, Dubai is one of the first countries to adopt a Hyperloop, or is it now called Virgin Hyperloop or Virgin Dubai? I don't remember. But and going forward, they already have plans to do drones, taxis, and things, and that's one of the forefront and infrastructure technology as well. So I think there are much that Hong Kong can contribute to that equation, and to sort of keep challenging each other and reach new heights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Well, as the question asks about useful tips that useful tips of doing business and investing in UAE, I think we must also seek the expert advice from our UAE friends. Maybe, I'm not sure whether His Excellency Al Jujawi can also help on this one. Yeah. Any tips for our Hong Kong's prospective investors doing business or investing in UAE and in the Middle East?
Yeah, I will start from where my colleague Nicholas have finished. It's about the future. This is where UAE, including all Emirates, are focusing on. When you look at how futurism is on the highest agenda of the government, and the private sector is following directly. It's about how we prepare ourselves for the future, not tomorrow, but for the future from yesterday. And this is where we want the whole, development to be within this framework of what we're trying to set here in terms of collaboration, in terms of partnership, in terms of developing projects. It's all about how we can bring this to be an added element of our future being. This is not new to UAE. We started this a couple of years down the road, and it's just getting intensified right now. Where we are today is we're welcoming the world to really come and set up food here in the country, but at the same time, make sure that once you set up food in UAE, regardless of where you put that in whatever city or Emirates, you are having that extension of a large market around us. It's a 2.4 billion consumer market, and it is an opportunity for many countries, especially long-time relation partners like Hong Kong, to really tap on. Utilizing our positioning here will allow you to really get into other markets. But at the same time, there is one point that I would like always to highlight, which is when you start in Dubai or UAE, the eyes in the region will be on you, because this is where they're trying to see the adaptation of UAE progressively in systems and projects and way of thinking and economic development have been always something that the entire region, all the way to Africa, is looking for. And UAE is a model for development that is not a secret for many countries around us. And at the same time, we are a reliable partner. We're a safe and secure place. We have succeeded in combating COVID and making sure that we are balancing between economy and healthcare. At the same time, we're always a futuristic look will continue to be with us. So being a reliable partner, at the same time being a place that will, as Nicholas also mentioned, will experiment new things. We are not shying from trying to do new things for the first time. Even if it is a government, we may fail once or twice, but we learn and continue. This is the formula of success, and we want to continue that. We have great leadership and great private sector complementing that. And this is where I think the success, it's about leadership, system, and people.
Yeah. Thank you very much, His Excellency. This is really very inspiring. Thank you. Well, I think it's almost time, and thank you for all the questions and all the in-depth responses from our panelists. And I'm sure our audiences will find this session very useful and helpful. And as I said, I think the session is very, very inspiring. And I see there are plenty of collaboration opportunities between Hong Kong and UAE, of course, between our Greater Bay Area, mainland China, and also the Middle East. I really hope that when the pandemic subsides, we'll be able to organize a delegation to visit the UAE. I haven't been to UAE before. I just transit Dubai. I've just transited Dubai before. So I really, really look forward to going to visiting UAE and bringing our businesses, investments to UAE and vice versa. Convincing our UAE friends, our investors, coming to Hong Kong and coming to the Greater Bay Area. So thank you very much. So I think with the panel discussion has come to an end. Let me pass the floor to the MC, Vinci.
Thank you, Commissioner Chang and all the panelists for such an insightful panel discussion section. As what Commissioner Chang stated, it is really clear that there are ample rooms for cooperation between Hong Kong and the UAE in the post-COVID time to deepen our trade and economic partnership as well as a people-to-people bond. Before today's event draws to a close, may I invite His Excellency Sheikh Saud Al Mualla, Acting Consul General of the United Arab Emirates in Hong Kong, to say a few words for us.
Good morning, UAE. Good afternoon, Hong Kong. It has been a pleasure co-organizing this webinar and listening to all the speakers. We do hope it was fruitful for all attendees from UAE and Hong Kong. There is no doubt that both sides have huge opportunities and the doors are wide open to reach deep to each other across economic, commercial, and culture. The Consulate General of the UAE in Hong Kong has been and will always be ready to help enhancing cooperation between the two sides across all sectors, facilitating communication with the right people, and strengthening the good trade and investment tie already in place, and encouraging cooperation in the new uncharted area. As much as we seek to help Hong Kong business community to access the UAE markets, we have encouraging the UAE business community to tap into Hong Kong and the Great Bay Area markets. The Council of the UAE in Hong Kong believe that the future of cooperation between the UAE and Hong Kong promise many good things to come for the people of the UAE and Hong Kong. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all of you again in future events.
Thank you, Consul General. Ladies and gentlemen, today's webinar has now come to an end. For the UAE companies which are keen to set up a presence in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, you are very welcome to approach the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Dubai. We hope that today's webinar has been a fruitful one for everyone. And to all our distinguished guests and panelists, thank you once again for your insightful sharing and remarks. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Goodbye.